Yet another RFI, RFC, request for information, request for comment. Requesting information from any viewers who are watching who upload videos on YouTube, which is a percentage of some of you. YouTube has decided to sabotage descriptions when we cut and paste them from, let's say, a text file. And I mean literally that's all it has the effect of. If you're not aware of it, when you type up, let's say, a simple text file, unless you're doing a word processor or some web form that does the work for you, you're going to have a file that's pretty simplistic. It'll have letters and numbers typed out in a way that looks almost exactly the same when you look at it as source or looking in the file as raw binary data. But it will have, at the end of each line, before it starts a new line, some new line convention. This will include one or two characters that are not printable. They're considered white space or blanks that have special functions. These are, cursor control functions. And they're to move the cursor from this line down and over, or over and down. And if you're not aware of why there are two functions, it's so that you could, if you wanted to, move, let's say, the cursor on this line over to here, and then dynamically have it move over a certain set of spaces and then rewrite something on the screen dynamically. This was a way of doing things to where you could dynamically change what's on the screen for doing extremely primitive sort of animations or even three-dimensional projections or video games, and also just so that you had control over the cursor. This level of control of where you're typing on the screen is actually quite important. It's the reason we can edit anything at all. But that also, that would mean that you could advance the cursor forward and back on a line, have it go up and down relative from one line to another, have it go all the way to the top of your file, and then move down a certain pattern. Lots of complicated systems are created. But on the basic level, when you're looking at a text file, it contains a command in it that tells it to start drawing the next line or sentence down. This can be used to create paragraphs, indents, organize things in patterns, all sorts of things. This is all command line user interface, things that were done in the original versions of this. And these are holdovers from Teletype. Now, some systems decided to oversimplify it. Linux and Macintosh OSs only use one of the characters. It's presumed that if you're changing to the next line, you want the cursor moved here. There's something called a carriage return, that's the CR, and the other one's called a line feed, LF. Line feed is like turning the knob on an old-style mechanical typewriter. And the carriage return is when you'd slap that little bar and push it to the side. I'm old enough to know where this came from because I physically experienced this. That's where the terms come from. But on Linux and Macintosh, if you just have it go down a line, or if you tell it to go to the original line here, it's presuming in a simplified text file, you're not doing anything fancy, it's just going to go to here, and it doesn't need both commands. Windows explicitly includes both for compatibility reasons, and should support just one or the other code, not require both. And most of the time it does, but older software does not, because it still considers it important. Okay, now, none of that should matter on YouTube that doesn't just ignore one or the other, or prefer that you only use a carriage return, or that you only use a line feed. That's not what happened. The carriage return and line feed, both characters that would be used to make a new line when I cut and paste a description from a text file, which is the normal thing I do to make my YouTube videos, went out of its way to erase every carriage return and line feed, so a well-structured sentence or set of information, or in the last video, a series of individual commands that you would use in a video game's console to tell it, hey, I want to turn on grass and shrubbery because I think it looks cool. That was what the video was about. Gets crammed together in one long sentence, not even a sentence, where it removed them to the point that the end of one command was pressed against the other to where it was just a string of garbage. This looks exactly like the website going out of its way to do something that was computationally kind of complicated just to make it miserable for me. Now you might be saying, that sounds kind of paranoid or whatever. Come here. Say it with me. A very large corporation is willing to bully people into crying on camera because they seem to enjoy it. I'm not going to cry. I'm talking about other people. This company seems to be doing a social experiment where they just fuck with people and see what happens. It quite literally, it's not some sort of government experiment. This is a corporation run by sociopaths. Okay? That's at the worst end of it. What else could cause this? It could have gotten confused because it was trying to look through it, and the AI bot or just an algorithm or just a simple subroutine screwed up and started deleting every single new line code type. I cut and paste the information from, I'm not kidding, a dedicated Linux text file maker. I have one just to deal with Linux systems. And also make one that was formatted for proper Macintoshes, because Macintoshes and Linux computers want things sometimes very specifically coded. Now, the reason I know I was doing that at the time is I went ahead and used this thing because I'm playing around with a video game that was written originally that it only used carriage return. It's a video game. It didn't want to waste an extra byte with 2 commands. It just used one of them. It happened to be using carriage return. So I converted it in a editor called Notepad++, and then I viewed it in a binary and then a hex editor to make sure I got it right, because I never quite trust translator routines like that, and I shouldn't. But I also tried just typing up some sentences and hitting enter in Notepad, just in case, maybe it was a screw-up caused by Notepad+. Notepad is too basic to insert random characters. So when I cut and pasted it in, it looked fine. Then I hit save, and it immediately removed all carriage returns, all line feeds, and screwed up the description. And very importantly, it left certain text alone, but only attacked the text I was putting in. And it didn't matter if I put in a couple of sentences or a whole string of instructions. It would find a way to do it if I just continued and put in some more information by even hand typing it. Now, how did I fix it? In the previous video I uploaded on my other channel, I put in the text by cutting and pasting it, and then I went through and painstakingly hit enter for all, I think it was over 50, actually it was over 100 lines. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's not a big deal. It's a slow drip. If it's being done deliberately, which is what it acts like, I'm sorry, a very large corporation would never, that handles databases, would never be taken seriously if it deleted carriage returns and line feeds, because it would destroy their ability to have a web. I don't know if you understand this, but even a web page needs to have those separators and have line feeds in them for a web page to work. Most JavaScript makes it mandatory. Most any kind of scripting language or programming language requires it. If it was programmed to handle being able to run a multi-billion-dollar company that runs exclusively, the entire point of its existence is to run code without fucking it up, it has no excuse for fucking up a description other than an outage, or it's not accidental and they did it on purpose to fuck with me. Now, I have 2 YouTube channels, and there isn't any reason to attack one or the other or to use me as a test case to fuck with me like this, because, again, all it did, and it doesn't matter, I used every browser I have, each different version, newer versions and older ones, I tried them, they all failed the same way. Unless they're trying to make people only use Chrome, which is their own product because Google, or they're just fucking with Firefox users. Now remember, I did multiple tests. I typed up a brand new file, just a random set of sentences, pasted it in. It removed the carriage and the line feeds. No new lines are destroyed. I tried doing it from an editor that would only do the Mac version or the Linux version, or very strictly adhere to the Windows version. I even used a trick in it to force it to put in 20 carriage return and line feeds pairs. So it should have started a sentence here and then moved it down. It very diligently on the website removed all of the dead space and took both sentences and arranged them end to end, and still managed to even remove one of the spaces in here to mung it together to where the word would not show up as being a spelled word. Now, the first thing someone's going to say is, well, it must have been something on your copy of Windows or on your copy of Mac, or your copy of Firefox, the web browser. No, I have variations on Firefox on here, and I tried every one of them. Identical behavior. And it didn't matter if I did a brand new file in a text file and cut and paste it, or I used the original one that supposedly could cause the problem. None of that mattered. Now, I only did this on one of my accounts because it's very important. If you're going to test variables, you don't change more than one variable. If it happened on this YouTube channel of mine, I have to test each of the browsers on it. So I did it. I kept trying to edit the same one. I would select all of the content of the description, erase it, save the video that way while it was unlisted, and then come back after logging off and logging back in another browser to put in the text and see if it would stop doing this infuriating behavior. Now, the reason I'm edging towards this being on purpose is, I say this on the channel a lot, there is no technical reason to do that. There is no way in fuck a data processing company would do this as a deliberate behavior that would be useful to literally anybody. That literally can't happen. Well, maybe it was a hidden magic code. I observed the thing using a hex editor, a binary editor, a dynamic interpreting editor. I ripped the file apart each time, and again, I just sat there and hand typed it one time, and it fucked it up anyway. Well, maybe it's a mistake on their part. A mistake by a data processing company that would amount to, if they ran it on all of their code, making their entire company dead broke within 2 days and destroying potentially about a billion companies if they applied it site-wide. They handle data for lots and lots of companies. It's like if Amazon suddenly decided to destroy the comma or the semicolon in all code. If you're not aware of it, that's listed as a joke of one of the potential ways to end modern society. Literally, punctuation determines whether or not it's a piece of data or a program. If you remove that kind of shit, everything runs wild. Think, not that the computer site stops working, but that random viruses form out of the ether. Okay, a very large data-based company that does nothing but databases and storage, fucking up something as intrinsically important as new lines or commas or anything basic like that, where you just don't do that because it's a non-recoverable, unfixable mess when you do that. Having them do that to any part of their system is a gigantic no-no. You never create a special case where you do that. Now, there is an exception. If it decided I was typing in a website URL that was a virus, I can understand that. But it already doesn't make them clickable. Now, here's how I fixed it. I went through and cut and pasted in and hand typed in each individual, hit enter, make a new line. And that fixed it. But what I did before that is I did a simple experiment. I cut and pasted my entire description as a comment. I can't pin it, but it's the first comment on the YouTube video down below it. Now, not only did that work fine, it worked with 0% glitch and almost no delay time to it. And very importantly, if it was about preventing spam, it not only allowed me to cut and paste my source links, which it normally makes non-clickable, but it made them clickable and even corrected them to make sure that they worked. Because I made a typo on one of them and it corrected it. It actively made sure I had clickable links, but not in the description. It went after the description, but did not apply the same rule to the comment. This is an extremely selective error, or they're fucking with people. Now, I'm going to upload this on the other channel, and maybe this channel won't be affected. I will be putting Lora Ipsum, which is a standard cut and paste for testing this kind of shit. That's what you test with, below in the description. I'm absolutely, I checked with everything. The only thing I didn't change is I didn't load Windows 10, and I did not load Google Chrome. I won't. If that's what they would be required to fix it, that's anti-competitive behavior. That's monopolistic behavior. That's when they get dragged by the DOJ. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. But YouTube appears to be sabotaging uploaders' descriptions either all over the place or selectively people like me.